as T1 going to be banning the Senna here instead, so probably don't want to prioritize pick that, maybe looking towards something like, I was going to say the Corki or the Tristana, which has been the main priority for mid lane, and then the expectation is that it would obviously get picked up by KT, as a lot of focus being paid there towards Deft and Barrel.
It's probably a good idea. I mean, as you mentioned, even with Barrel having, you know, some medical issues at the moment and probably in a bit of pain, he's still playing really well on the stage. So that's kind of scary, as we do see the Kalista and the Rumble also taken off the board.
AD carries really are something on this patch. Tristana would be my expected final ban, because otherwise I'm pretty sure that T1 is just going to snap lock that one in, but that does keep the Nidalee up. It is going to be the Tristana taken away. With Corki and Tristana both banned, I do think the Nidalee loses a little bit of value, but we've seen a lot of teams go for a Hui, so you still have a lot of pressure in terms of ranged damage, but it does make the 2v2 a lot weaker.
Yeah, it absolutely does, and they're not going to pick jungle here. They're just going to take the Skarner. The Rumble already taken away. We have seen Cassante be the very common answer nowadays to the Skarner, especially when the Rumble is off the board. So, I mean, perfect. He plays a good Cassante. I feel like it's a very strong lock-in. Don't necessarily have to pick it here, but maybe want to keeping some stuff secret, as they will go ahead and lock in the Cassante. And what are we going to see other than that? We did see a very high priority on Ezreal just yesterday from the Kwangdong Freaks, even first picking it on blue side. And they're going to lock it in.
Definitely one of the strongest AD carries in the current meta, but not so strong that it's banned every single game. Once upon a time, a hover of Zeri would have led to collective groans from a T1 audience, but I do think that they've been getting a little bit better at playing around it. Two very different approaches, as Kuma obviously does love the Raven. My expectation is that they're just going to play for Zeri. Does have all-in pressure on Ezreal if he ever ease forward in a way that he shouldn't. Outside of that, obviously hard to lock him down, as it's going to just be the Azir here, which that is the one that catches me off guard a little bit. BDD should be happy to go towards a Yone, even though I think his individual performance wasn't necessarily that good. I like the Taliyah area because it both works well into the Azir, but you can still flex. So maybe you can draw another ban. This could, of course, also be a jungler.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty good position to take that Taliyah and essentially just have all the control moving into your R4 pick, and can even hold on to, you know, counter pick for the support role, just to see what that bottom lane is going to look like exactly. They're going to take Sejuani off the board here. Will we see any looks at the Nautilus? I wouldn't be even surprised if KT want to run like an Ezreal Nautilus lane just to deal with the Zeri, and even just for very reliable lockdown. But the Vi also going to be banned, so maybe they take the Nautilus off the board too.
Are obviously also some fringe cases here where you can even rotate Ezreal mid and then go for the Taliyah jungle, as mentioned before, but I don't think KT should go that far. Just try and run something that's consistent. The Leona is the obvious R4 pick here. Does have, as you point out, not the same amount of guaranteed lockdown against the Zeri that Nautilus would, but I do think the Ezreal Leona is obviously a really strong lane. My guess would be that that's what they're going to go towards. We'll see. Nautilus wouldn't surprise either, and instead, it's looking to be a Barrel last pick here, with Pioshik locking in the lead.
Yeah, this is what I was saying before. You can hold on to counter pick once you see what the bottom lane is, but as you were mentioning, this does leave, you know, a lot of strength. It leaves the Leona available, leaves the Nautilus available. Maybe they say, okay, we'll just take one of those. There's a lot of things left in the support role, so we'll just let you take the Leona, and Barrel can play whatever once he knows exactly what the lane is going to look like. So they get that powerful Leona on the side of T1 with the Zeri-Leona combo, as now we're going to see the mid laner, or rather the jungler, for the side of T1 looking like a Nidalee for now, and there it is.
Not surprising, not the best Nidalee draft with Azir in the mid lane. That obviously is a little awkward as your double AP, but you do have the setup with the Leona, with the Skarner, to at least have some spears. I think it's an amazing Nidalee draft, but I don't think it is the worst either. And again, T1 does love playing aggressive, and Nidalee slots into that game plan, as I really like the KT comp. I think the Lee is the only oddball out here, where Pioshik, I think his main job is going to be just get you to the point of the game where you can rely on your extremely solid front line And if you're in a front to back, maybe KT can stand up, but they do gonna have to get through the lanes, and that's where I think things aren't looking too bad realistically, right? You should have a lot of lane pressure in bot with how strong Ezreal is, outside of the first few levels because of Alistar's weak level 1. And then both in mid and top, I definitely think that it is playable. We'll see if KT can actually utilize that, because if you do start losing lanes and Owner just gets to invade Pyosik and the Lee is set behind and you get out-tempoed, things get very ugly very quickly.
It's very true. I think, you know, in this meta where the junglers really matter a whole lot, T1, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make that a possibility and really try to put a lot of pressure on these lanes. We see the Alistar into Leona very often. We even saw an Ezreal Alistar lane getting some early tempo against a Leona lane just because the Ezreal is strong at the moment and the Alistar can deal with the Leona even at level 1, as we're getting a very close look at these compositions now.
I like what KT have drafted here. I think that it's not too complicated. It's a relatively straightforward draft, and that's what you need when you're struggling as much as they are.
Well, let's see how this first match is going to go on game number 1, T1 versus KT Rolster, as we hop onto the Rift.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
You know what I think it's time for in our next game, Velvet.
I know exactly what it's time for.
We bring it back.
We prepared for this moment.
Because I am 100% sure that the arena was erupting while this was happening. But if we don't have an audio feed, we got to do our own fan chants again.
And there's a chance that the stream could hear it, but we couldn't, so... We'll do it, and we'll try to get confirmation on that as well. Like I said, we have prepared for this moment. We've had some times in our life here at the LCK. And yeah, I think this jungle matchup is going to be very important. Owner on the Nidalee, though, is so incredibly annoying to deal with. It is one of his most strong picks in the current meta, and he was able to pick it on blue 5th pick, after seeing everything, after seeing his opponent's jungle pick as well.
It makes sense that KT didn't want to heavily prioritize it in terms of bans. I think that if you look at what T1 have, you know, Azir with Nidalee isn't really the combo that you're going to be as scared of as you are with what they ended up banning, right? Sejuani is just something that Owner, I think, has been really good at. Xin Zhao just works very well with the comp and also allows T1 to play a really aggressive style, break up those fights. But it still feels bad that Owner gets to play what is currently probably considered the most aggressive jungler if you can play her. I actually want to give credit here to Deft and Beryl, because this is huge. They were actually able to do a really good job of mitigating the weak early level of Alistar, get early level 2, already force out the barrier, and I again want to reiterate, especially with a Nidalee, having some lanes that you can play through as Lee is really, really important, because if Owner just has free reign to do whatever he wants, he's going to outpace Pyosik, he's going to be able to either invade or set up very aggressive plays. So Deft and Beryl doing a good job here is big. Deft is getting a little bit low on mana, but the poke, at least outside of that last Mystic shot, is doing its job.
Yeah, I mean, you're just able to put on so much pressure with this Ezreal on current patch. Beryl going for the headbutt early on, just saying, okay, well, I'm just not going to interact with you at all. If you want to do something, I'm just going to use this and proc Aftershock and essentially do whatever. Alistar is very strong in the current meta as well. He is currently sitting at 14-4 in terms of win rate and is on a 6-game winning streak across many, many different teams. As you talked about the bottom lane, you talked about junglers trying to utilize the pressure in this lane. Owner's going to get here first with his faster clear, but Pyosik also here. Trying to make a play here for the Scuttle Crab. Well, the spear is going to land, and now a chance to smite it. Yeah, Owner's going to get that smite down, as the knockback also going to miss. As they do engage on a carrier, but that is a Leona.
Beryl!
The flash over the wall as Beryl makes the play! And first blood goes to KT. Faker isolated and will go down. It's 2 kills to KT early on in this game.
And when every single person predicts T1, some might have said, guys, come on, someone's got to take the gamble. And this alone, obviously not enough, but what a sign of life from a KT that up until this point has looked so rough. And the biggest thing to me here is that they're able to win, even despite BDD not hitting the flick. Carrier feels really safe, which makes sense. You're a Leona, so with Eclipse, with Aftershock, you're going to feel borderline unkillable, but the bot lane of KT is really far ahead of the play. Zeri's in there, and Azir is quite weak, right? Talia takes away a lot of the normal mobility that you might have otherwise, and KT, that's a kill on Lee and Ezreal as well.
Yeah. No, it's insane, and I really liked how KT were all in together on that play. Speaking of which, we got a nice little pulverize on it too. If he lands the stun, yeah, that's the barrier utilized from Guma. He knows he's under a bit of pressure here, especially with BDD down in the bottom lane. There's no flash for Carrier, but he will just walk away from that one, utilizing very well the walk strategy just to survive.
They don't get the kill, but they get another barrier. As long as BDD can catch this mid wave, he's not even going to be remotely behind, because again, Faker died in that previous play, and with his passive, it looks like he's going to be just fine to just catch this wave fully. And Deft is just going to get free hits here, and again, they have been doing a really good job of tracking Owner at any given point as well. Deft just keeps poking away, hasn't actually backed with his kill gold, so as of right now, not necessarily much stronger. As they will again spot Owner here. But the damage was done. Like, BDD's roam is still successful. Keria and Guma have to go back. Although Guma does actually stay around here, was channeling his back, but is obviously safe. Doesn't really have to face the threat of any dive with enough reinforcements in the area. And then Deft decides to stay as well. Really wants this plate, I imagine. And you see, as the moment Deft shows up, Keria immediately was roaming towards mid, immediately walks back to ensure that no shenanigans will be happening towards the bottom side of the map.
Well, there might be shenanigans here in mid. Is Faker going to dash over some rocks? That is not what you want to do. Also a big wave here. Maybe trying to set something up, but Beryl was here as well. So, yeah, that was a 3v2 in favor of KT. Either way, Faker's totally fine. And not going to have to spend anything to get out of that one. Keria still level 3. Kind of awkward for him. And Deft is going to go on a back finally.
That's Tear and Chi. That's the dream, you know?
Dream.
You don't have to make a trade. I actually got 2 long swords as well. You don't have to make a trade-off of, do I get one or the other? I also want to highlight that they do get the crash, so Deft will be missing a bunch of minions here. I'm not 100% sure if this was on the cannon wave. They'd have to back eventually, so that back timing is a little bit rough. It's also, I think, the reason why we see that Guma is sitting on more XP, as well as the fact that Keria obviously has been roaming around a little bit more. Beryl gets Swifties on his first back. And Beryl, his performance on the Alistar, obviously, like when Beryl was peak Beryl, is still some of the best support play I've seen.
Yeah.
And thus far in this game, he's making his presence shown, and particularly given the fact that he's dealing with medical issues right now. That's extremely impressive.
I am kind of surprised that T1 did give Beryl the actual perfect Alistar spot. Yeah. With it being Beryl and Alistar in current meta.
He's good.
It's kind of insane. Like, everything just synergizes so well. Like, if you're a KT fan, if you're a Beryl fan, you are just loving your life right now. Because it's a great shout-out. I mean, it was 2019, right? Where Dom1 Gaming at the time went over, and Beryl just put on such an amazing performance. And then eventually, the following year, they were able to also go ahead and win the entire championship. So the guy's pretty good on the champ. And especially with a lead here. I mean, you're just going to have the Alistar around the map. He's going to be making plays. He's already made a lot of plays. As now up in the top side here, K'Sante being a real problem for Zeus. I mean, at the end of the day, it is 2 tanks butting heads, so not going to amount to too much. They're equal on farm. This first Drake, though, will go over to KT as they have total control over the bottom side river.
Deft firing off his ultimate as well, just trying to maintain pressure on that wave, even in a 1v2 scenario. Do want to highlight, like, we're talking a lot about KT, because I think KT already this early look way better than what we've seen of them thus far in summer. If you look at the T1 comp, their team fighting is still going to be insane, right? So for me now, the question becomes, can KT maintain his pressure? And a 4-man dive will be a great example.
This is a lot of pressure, yeah. I like the word you use as they're trying to turn on the depth, though. He's so low and he will be taken out as no stun goes on Aguma, and PDD can't even get the kill. Flash Rock, no, he misses. And Carriel, well, he's probably going to go down here, but they don't get Guma, and a 1-for-1 trade in a 4-man dive is not what you want to see. Guma also picking up a kill.
Oh, really big there as, set up.
Yeah, trying to make this play onto the Cassante. He does all out the Skarner under the turret, and now Zeus has to flash away. Going back in onto the all-out Cassante. Not sure about that one. Impale on a both. Do they have the damage? No, perfect. Goes in, assassinates the Nidalee, and now he's totally fine. Zeus with 0 mana, and eventually he's just gonna die. I mean, there's nothing he can do here with no mana, no health. BDD picks up the 2nd kill.
BDD maintaining his 100% kill participation, makes a play towards bot. A little bit scuffed of a play, but it ends up working out. Really well done here. Guma flashes the combo from barrel, which means that the main damage source isn't locked down at all, and then turns onto death. So super well played by Guma there. Carrier still ends up going down. BDD, tragic flash there, but it actually ends up being a really big moment for him nonetheless, because even though this play doesn't go the way you want to, you still get the kill. And then here, I think it makes sense for T1 to go back in, specifically because of the fact that the Taliyah means that you're going to fight anyway. Like, I don't think you have a way of really getting out here. The moment that TP comes through, you know that the wall is going to follow. So I understand Owner and Zeus trying, but there was a miscommunication there as well, right? Because I think Zeus, you saw him go for the impale, whereas we already saw Owner walk out. So if they go one way or another, maybe it works. Maybe you at least trade 1 for 2. Maybe you just sacrifice one person and you make it out, but instead neither happens. And now KT building themselves up to a 2K gold lead here. And this first game, very different from what we expect in the best of ways, Valdez.
Absolutely. I mean, this is making this an interesting matchup. I was worried that we were just going to have, it's T1 home ground. They're going to come in. They're going to stomp. It's going to be a 2-0. That's no fun, right? For Saturday Showdown, we need to have a competitive back-and-forth match. KT, shout-outs to them. They're making it so. And 2,000 gold lead, as you mentioned, here in 11 minutes. They're getting all the objectives as well. We're having the audio put in from the T1 home ground, so you know the cheerleaders are going in and the fans are chanting, trying to get T1 back on the horse here. But at this moment in time, KT, they've risen to the challenge. You know, today's the big day. They've had a really rough couple of weeks, 3.5 weeks, you could say, or I guess 2.5 weeks at this point, and just trying to get their first big win here against T1 after they got their first win.
I'm just saying, Valdez, KT Challengers did beat T1 Challengers in this very arena today.
That missed his Mystic shot on the cannon.
I tried to ignore it.
I saw you were looking away from the monitor at me, so yeah, trying to save yourself, but I couldn't be saved.
Thanks, Jonas.
Sorry.
No, I'm glad we're pointing it out. Because again, that's okay, and it happens to everyone.
Recalibrate, okay.
Just a couple of skill shots, going a little bit wide here consecutively. Yeah. But no, we saw KT, who is of course currently reigning champion of Challengers, has been not having as dominant of a split as they did last time around, but still looking really good, beating T1 CL today here in this very arena, which I also love that they also include the baby team, you know?
Bruh.
Perfect. I thought that maybe the pressure of playing in this arena would get him. So far,
he's
looking great.
Yeah, no, he's looking almost better than he normally looks. So I don't know what Hirai said to them before the match, but everybody's...
Maybe he's got that dog in him, you know? It's like, oh, this crowd, it makes me play better. Watch me.
I mean, when everybody's cheering against you, it's almost like you have something extra to prove, right? So I do like it. I do like it a lot. CKT really playing to another level. And yeah, it's a good point. You know, KT Challengers were the big expected winner in that Challenger matchup, and they did win.
It was they did lose game one. It was
yeah.
they did have to fight for it a little bit.
maybe that happens here. T1 the expected winner in this matchup. They lose game 1, come back and win the series. Could happen.
That I'd sign up for that though. That's still I could already call this a win for KT as long as nothing colossally rough happens. Which
there's one unfortunate loss for KT
Again?
already. It's that Ox wasn't paying attention. And we do have a Chemtech Soul for
that the bottom right of that gold ref looks like a cityscape.
Yeah, it does.
With like a sunrise.
Looks really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, love the grading.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The gradation.
Gradients.
Gradients. Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah. Pretty big fan. And we're talking a lot about KT because I also have to be completely honest. I am also very worried that there's going to be a point where T1 take control and that'll just be the end of it for the rest of the series. As that we are going in on Alistair.
Yeah, they're trying to engage. I mean, Solar Flare thrown into Barrel, really?
I mean, you trade ult for ult.
I guess.
Get some pressure towards the bot side turret.
It's still Alistair. Like, why?
Yeah, but if you get a turret for it, I do think that it is worth, right? Like, it's a heavy investment, but I don't think they will. Perfect's able to just make this happen, and I imagine they know that the Herald is being taken towards the top side of the map and want to try and go for a cross map.
Well, they're going to try now. Flash for flash. Just now even Owner's going in there. I don't know what Barrel said to these guys, but they're really trying desperately to capitalize on this Alistair with his ult down. Zeus is having a lot of trouble dealing with BDD onto the turret right now, and BDD actually going to wall on in. He wants more. He wants the kill, but he cuts it short and jumps off the wall a little bit early, so maybe not wanting to over-push for that.
Yeah, don't be distracted by what looked like obviously a lot invested into trying to kill Barrow and being unsuccessful. The play still worked. The 2K gold deficit has now been brought down to a 1K gold deficit. Getting that first turret bot, I think, is quite big. And what KT got back is, well, Zeus didn't even have to flash, right? Didn't end up going down. BDD investing a lot of time. They got the Herald. So they might be able to get the mid lane here, which obviously is going to be good as Deft.
He's going to Arcane Shift in, and now here comes Skarner out of the shadows from below. And that was really scary. I love the toggle of the vision there. And he is just going to be able to get away. And it doesn't have to flash or anything like that, so totally fine, but a little bit scary.
One really cool development that we've been seeing is the Liandry's first buy and the changes in Nidalee builds, because initially it was always Lichbane into Liandry's. That was the build we saw first at MSI, and then now we've swapped generally to going Lichbane and then Horizon Focus, so like really heavily opting into just I throw spears. That's my job. That's all I care about.
Liandry's into
sorry, yeah, Liandry's into Horizon Focus, yeah. The main thing for KT now is to not give T1 an opening. One of the things that T1 have become known for is the ability to find uncannily good team fights from a deficit. This deficit isn't even that big, and it's exactly these type of positions. But you do see KT, they actually read this pretty well, right? They're very aware that T1's going to be looking to collapse, and Barrel, he's Deft's bouncer.
Yeah, they're doing a good job of trying to get this mid-tier 1. They're not going to quite get it. You see it's living on like 50 HP at this point in time. But Def going to keep up the pressure. That's basically his job, to sit in mid, try to take 1v1s against Guma, and essentially abuse the strength of Ezreal in this moment in time in the meta before the Zeri gets too insane. Barrel up in the top lane, trying to make a play here alongside of BDD. But Faker playing pretty safe in terms of his positioning. He's playing very away from those brushes, so not going to hit any danger zones at that top lane.
He already was able to push out the wave, so there's not really a reason for him to walk up there unless they wanted to make a play on BDD, but not going to be the case. BDD also going to be backing here. And these turrets do have to start going down if KT wants to maintain map control. As mentioned, if this was an Infernal, if this was a Hextech like Hextech Ezreal Talia, that would have been really good for KT. Cassante is definitely still going to enjoy the powers of a M-Tech Soul, but outside of that, might be a little bit rough, as we do see the mid lane turret now full, so that's a big win for KT. Will, again, build up that gold lead a little bit. I don't know if T1 is going to be interested in actually contesting this dragon, though, as A lot of pressure on Perfect, but they do know this is happening.
Yeah, they really want to turn this around. Do KT, the all-out goes in on Owner. They're going very deep for this one. Perfect getting very hypey with it, and now Beryl in a little bit of trouble. He's going to have to go to the Unbreakable Will as they overcommit to that one. Not expecting as many members of T1 to be there, but the entire team did rotate up to the top side, including that TP from Zeus to make that play happen.
KT read the play, think that they have the numbers advantage. T1 is being a little bit slow with setting it up, but just Perfect and Beryl isn't enough damage. If Deft hits his ultimate there, which wasn't his fault, right? Like, it was just the angle of being dragged by Perfect that didn't allow him to hit it. That maybe could have been a difference, but they didn't have enough members. Now the gold's going to be basically even. Yes, KT will get this dragon, but it really does feel like they could have probably done that and just have Perfect leave the top half of the map and not give over the kill.
Yeah.
Because instead, you invest the teleport,
Look at that
trying
heal.
to salvage the play.
The heal is so chunky, man. It's like almost 300. And he went so all out onto the Nidalee. It's like, well, now you're just out of position into multiple members. So we're getting a deep look into the mind and the life of Beryl.
It's just a cow eating some fruit. That got soul point, but the gold's now going to be even. And T1, there is a Baron on the map. So we got a tiny little blue blip there. Just a little one.
Yeah.
But you have double Leandris and you have Zeri. So if they get any time alone with this, it's going to go down in seconds. TP is down for BDD as well. Obviously, can rotate very quickly, but I like this.
Oh, the play on a Faker is huge. Will he die, though? He just flashes and he dashes away. He's totally fine. Meanwhile, Keria and Guma, I think we're doing some damage to Beryl there, but he is Alistair with a Celestial opposition, so he doesn't take much damage. But yeah, Faker does have to flash away from that one, trading with Pyoshi.
Do you think that's still a win for KT? Looking for these practice plays, definitely a good call as Keria?
Yeah, he's going in. I mean, he can't get out at this point, so just trying to open it up for Guma, but down will go Keria. Now Guma's got to run away. So that's a pick onto the support here of T1.
Keria, second time in a row where he feels very safe, goes back to the play in River as well, and just ends up getting blown up. Again, Beryl making sure that Deft is fine, keeping Guma out of the equation there. As long as KT can keep these aggressive plays up, because T1, again, their team fighting from behind is something that they've relied on in their Worlds run last year. We've seen them do it plenty of times in the LCK this time around as well. Faker not having Flash, I think, is quite big. Keria not having Flash. Those are big wins for KT if they can actually capitalize on it. As Faker just walks a little bit too close, nicely done. And even with the combo, there just isn't enough damage, right? Pyoshik isn't necessarily strong enough to chew through Faker in that short amount of time. And then here, especially against Talia, I don't think you can walk off like that, even on the Leona. Gumayushi doesn't actually get to take down Beryl. I thought for a second that maybe KT were really going to take the gamble and start Nash, but I don't think that they're at the point in the game where that is a necessary risk.
Yeah. They had taken a lot of damage. I mean, you could say, okay, well, Zerial's down, Faker was really low, and they got Keria, so might have been an angle, but yeah, just not going to take the risk, as you mentioned, still very early on in the game in terms of taking Barons. Although, I'm sure T1 wouldn't mind if they get some control to
Look at that
Baron.
River control.
Yeah.
Get 3 control wards.
Pretty good.
River already.
not bad.
Sorry,
Oh, yeah, 4.
One's in the mid lane brush.
So pretty much every brush in the
Oh, the
River.
Faker ward. Item bush will get cleared out as well.
Faker currently on top of the gold, actually. And, you know, only has the 1 kill, but just farming really well, has a bounty right now.
Yeah, local gold as well from the turret in bot. So definitely quite big. Looking to get to his third item spike. Also see the Horizon now done for Owner. Spears we're going to be hitting even more. And I gotta say, Beryl isn't really as well suited, I think, as I think Leona in particular. Like, just pressing W means that it's good. You have Perfect, you can take Spears and not be too bothered, especially if he ends up going, we'll go Jaxos next, but if he ends up going for Koenig Rukern, you can really take those. But with Alistair, if you're not in your ultimate, if you don't have Aftershock up, you are a little bit weaker. So you do need to be respectful. There is an opportunity here for KT to set up. Do you want to trade Chemtech Soul for Nash? Is a question that I imagine they're asking themselves now. They are quite strong, right? 2.5 item spikes done across the board. Same for T1. But are you taking that trade? I don't think you do. Particularly against T1, a team that really utilizes the Baron very well. And Chemtech Soul just doesn't have the same oomph. If it was again, Hextech Infernal, it's a no.
Yeah. So they're gonna get this Void Scuttle and at least, you know, maintain really the entire gold, or rather vision lead that they have on the top center of the map here. Will KT, you'll notice we talked about the control wards from T1. Those have all been cleared out. There's actually 0 wards on the top side of the map for T1 outside of that one on the blue buff. So KT might just say, okay, well, we can try to control both as we have insane vision on the top side. And if you do rush it, we can just run over, especially because it's still very early on in the game.
Oh, the poke, the spears, the rocks.
Well, that's a solar flare. They're going to get the flash here at a barrel. And now the True Shot Barrage is also going to sail wide. So a lot of poke coming in. Onto Barrel, onto Perfect. Even BDD taking a big chunk. But now the damage onto this Dragon getting pretty low. They do want to get this Chemtech Soul before the fight. But Perfect goes low. There's the Chemtech Soul. As Barrel doesn't have his ult, and now the flash on in, and down will go Deft, who had flash available, just gets assassinated, and Barrel will go down too. So the Chemtech Soul does go over to KT, but it's 2 kills for T1, and should absolutely be the Baron.
100%, unless Pioshik can get a miracle steal here. That probably is going to be the trade we were talking about. Mid lane turret going over, 2 kills going over. And T1 picking themselves up the Baron, and yeah, no, he's still not getting there. Realistically, the moment that he just sticks around, there's no way. Zeus doesn't care about walls, and if he doesn't get Deft, they don't get Nash. Like, obviously KT is low, but I don't think that there's a way for them to hard force a fight and to not run the risk. There's a lot more threat on KT. Deft is their biggest damage dealer, as we saw earlier, together with BDD, so him being gone is a big loss. Interruptibility, it's nice, but there isn't really a way to follow up, at least for now, so they might be able to use that to get at least a bit of a mid-shove. And if you can clear out like a couple of waves, that alone could be good as well. They're still not letting them back.
All right, the engage code, Barrel gonna get on in there. And, you know, they're not gonna get any kills, but they're denying backs, they're delaying the Baron power play from really coming in. And essentially just buying time. They're going to be able to, with this map control, push out a bunch of the lanes and delay even further the Red Belt Baron power play. And essentially just buy as much time as possible. They're not that far behind in terms of gold, and you could say that is shored up by the Chemtech Soul. So
yeah,
pretty even game state, I would say, at this point in time.
I would agree, and even though Chemtech Soul is one of the weaker ones, it's permanent, right? Baron is going to run out. As long as they don't lose both inners and or an inhib, I think they're fine. That really, to me, is going to be the key thing as we take another look. The poke here between Azir and Nidalee and even Skarner is kind of insane. But then this play from Zeus, you see Deft just a second too late with the E. I think with the flash would have been fine. Didn't want to invest it. Ends up going down really crisp there from Zeus because it sets up the play. And now, one inner I think you can give up. But KT, they do still have a really beefy front line. Barrel now does have Warmox done, so I was saying earlier, Alistair generally not the greatest, forgetting the fact that he is an item that just is going to get his entire health bar back in seconds. So yeah, not going to be feeling too bad about that now.
It's going to be feeling pretty good. Pioshik is being pushed out of this bush, but I mean, still a minute left on this Baron, so let's see how much they can get out of this. Just trying to siege the top inner, but it's very half-hearted. Like, they're not fully committing to it. They're trying to wait for Zeus to push out bot at the same time and trying to push when he does hit the turret, but saw that BDD, especially early on, is going to be able to deal with that Skarner.
Deft got everything. I think he queued. Queued the big one and then also the big Krug, and then was also able to get them with his ult. Didn't need to do that, but he's getting close to his Cyrilda, so at least that'll be a good spike for him again. For KT, I think they will end up losing this inner in the 15 seconds. That's fine. That's not bad at all. Yes, you're still in a deficit, but it's not the end of the world. You're still within reach. The main issue is that T1, once they gain control, generally don't give it up, and we are going to an elder flip in this game. That's what it's boiling down to.
We had challengers play right before them, so I think the game is still a little confused about, is it challengers, baby, or is it LCK, man? And at the moment, it is LCK, man, but the game is still a little bit delayed, so probably going to get that challengers elder flip. And yeah, the game is in a very even spot. T1 have the extra gold, KT have the Dragon Soul. So really, I think it's just going to come down to the execution in the team fight when we do get to that big objective later on in the game. So, you know, the teams are going to try to set up macro control. They're going to try to set up as well as they possibly can for that team fight to help themselves out. But when push comes to shove, whoever gets that Elder in 2 minutes, probably going to end up running away with a big lead and potentially the game.
I feel like the most important summoner in this game is going to be Barrel's Flash, because Barrel is the only way that KT have to really get great snap engages, and they're going to need one, because what's going to happen most likely is that both teams are going to hold off on making any really big plays up until, as you can see now, like, backs are coming in, right? They're all going to go back. They're going to try and pick up as much vision as possible as red wards in the inventories of T1, and then for T1, the slower the better. If they can set up shop like 45 seconds before Elder spawn and just keep chipping away, right? You have Zeri W, you have Faker.
This ward isn't dying.
Yeah, no, they really do have to take that down.
That's a big problem.
I mean, they will find it.
They haven't stepped in that bush. They've had 3 people walk by it so many times. Even the plant missed it. And, I mean, eventually you run through that bush to get to Elder, right? Well, otherwise, Zeus just gets the freest TP ward in the game. Like,
oh, especially a Skarner.
Yeah.
With the Impale, that's a lot of value. They might be looking for a collapse onto him here, though.
Yeah, the timing of this is pretty good. I mean, 30 seconds until the Drake even spawns as, uh-oh, he's going to get knocked by the wall. That's the teleport down. And Zeus is like, well, I guess I'm dead.
He is.
Let's see how long this does take. I mean, if it takes 30 seconds, maybe T1 just go for the Elder, though.
He is Scar. Oh, look at that. KT are realizing, like, we don't have the time for this. Well, I think they do. I think they could have killed him.
Well, they're just going to let him go. Now, they did get the teleport out of Zeus, so now Zeus doesn't have teleport, has to run towards this. And they're going to teleport BDD into the fight early. So KT should have control over this area early on in terms of vision.
All right. Oh, perfect. They're not even going to catch the bot wave. Like, that turret might legitimately fall on the next crash. They know they have to play for this objective. They're not giving T1 time. Zeus made his way back.
Def just ate a spear. And that's a problem.
That's the worst target out of everyone for them.
Yeah, it's perfect for Owner to hit that onto him, as now it's just going to come down to a straight-up Elder flip. Macro out the window.
Keep him out.
This is just what they're going for. Look at Perfect's health bar. They're just going to impale Deftin again as he doesn't use Flash again. And Pyosik is not going to be able to get it. This game is over. Everybody on the side of KT just going to be isolated and ripped apart as T1, they get the Elder, they get the fight. They will get game number 1.
It is not Challengers, baby. It's just LCK. As KT, they get close, but that fight, basically everything went wrong. Def eats a spear, gets Impale, Pyosik doesn't get the flip, Perfect goes down before the fight as well and truly began. And it is going to be T1 going up for a much better showing, but game 1 still going as expected.
Absolutely did. Nice from KT to make it interesting, to make it close, but this is all about T1 once again at their home grounds here for Saturday's Showdown. And they're going to put on a nice performance, a nice win for them and their fans there. As you see the flags, it's insane what's going on at the Goyang Sono Arena right now. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think T1, you know, the coaches, they'll watch that game and say, hey, you guys gave KT a really good chance to win that game, actually. And if that were against current, you know, Gen G, Hamalife Esports, a top team, maybe even D plus Kia, you were probably losing that game. I mean, it felt like KT got a nice lead, but they weren't able to do enough with it. And eventually T1 just came back.
It's that team fighting that T1 can still rely on. But at least this game, I think, was a heavy overperformance from what we were expecting.
Yeah.
As we look at the damage numbers here, I think T1 Keria, probably the roughest individual game. Outside of that, I thought Zeus was, going to just randomly die in the sideline, which he's been doing a fair amount of, but actually ended up getting 2 extremely pivotal ultimates on Ezreal World Champions. And for Deft, he was the standout in the previous game, and this game, I think, didn't really make it happen.
Wasn't able to do enough for sure. So guys, we're done here for game number 1. We're going to take a break and come back with the space and game number 2. We will be right back.
이즈만 필.
치면 말해줘.
이즈만 필해. 나 미드 밀고 올게.
얘네가 급해.
이즈 흡혈 없을 거야.
얘네가 치고 싶어한다. 치고 있어.
오케이.
이제
13,000.
비전 빠졌고. 스마트 보고 싶어한다.
땅 걸긴 했지.
스마스 하면 안 나면 좋을 것 같긴 한다.
알리가 나 막을 거야.
볼수 있어.
내가 먼저 박을까 볼게 이거.
앞라인 서줘. 앞라인 서줘. 리신부터 리신부터.
탈려.
천천히.
리신 잡아.
리신.
먹었어.
탈려. 끝났다.
달려볼.
탈려.
미드 가자.
And everything.
Yes.
And people
Just trolling.
People definitely read what was on the screen as we get into the draft. Imagine the bans will stay the same from KT with Tristana third, and then that was about as far as we had gotten, and we should be speed running through this.
Yeah, because the picks were already done, so you just kind of go down the list as Ezreal was banned.
Ooh.
And so no Ezreal for Deft. Rumble first pick. Perfect, definitely very good at that pick. And then Zeri and Azir. We've seen this combo before in many metas.
I gotta say, the extremely high priority that is being placed by T1 on Azir, despite the fact that a lot of teams have dropped him in the priority, is really interesting to me. Also, LCK teams have been very happy to just play Rumble into Skarner every single time, so this shouldn't come as a surprise. Are we really going to get like 8 AD carry bans? Is that what we're heading to? Yep, there we go. Okay. I do like the Lulu ban. Are they just gonna go like? I don't think Draven is good.
Jinx, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking of Aphelios actually, but Jinx with this type of setup, not the amount of peel that you'd like to have. I think ideally with a Jinx composition, right? Jinx Kench, Jinx Fresh is normally what we see. It's kind of the opposite approach where Vi and Talia are going to try and get a kill for you, and then you just pop off. And the amount of damage that the KT comp have is absolutely insane. A lot of team fighting power there as well with the Leona and the Rumble. And a really strong mid-jungle 2v2. But a lot of that was the case in the last game. The early game was good. But looking at this, T1 still have an amazing teamfight composition that is going to be able to fight their way back from whatever deficit realistically KT is going to put them into, unless they really break open the game early and use that Vitalia combo in particular, because I think it's so insanely strong, very little counterplay, even compared to Lee, because of the Q, because of the R that Vi provides.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Faker and Own are going to be really important in this game, just to make sure that nobody really gets caught out by the Vitalia, and kind of just try to scale up and wait for those later game team fights and not get picked off. If you have a lead and you can survive some of the insane pick potential that KT's comp does have, you know, you can see the Zeri popping off, you can see the Azir popping off, even Viego getting resets. A lot of power in terms of their damage capability in those team fights as the game comes along. But guys, we are ready. Let's hop into the rift for game number 2.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Yeah, so Chronicler, we missed our chance. We had to get it done in game 1 if we were going to do the fan chants. As now we have the crowd audio.
This is better, Veldes. I liked the fan chants. That video, the YouTube video of the supercut, incredible. Especially the commitment to also take the ones that we messed up one way or another and just put them back to back. I love listening back to it. It is very funny, even though obviously it was a bit of a darker time with the DDoS attacks.
Yeah.
But now we have an entire audience for just a regular season best of 3, and we should enjoy that. We do have BDD swapping up his skin. As I am pretty sure this is this Star Guardian? Might be a Star
Guardian. I think it is
Chroma.
Yeah, and it's a Chroma.
It looks very Star Guardian. I should know this.
Star Garden.
Yeah. That'd be something.
Chronicler, if you had a garden, what would you grow in your garden?
Okay, so for herbs, mint, basil.
Okay.
I know those two are really easy to grow. Basil is basically a weed when it comes to trying to not have it completely overtake your garden.
Yeah.
So that's a bit
It grows so well.
It really does. I don't know if you could do cilantro. Cilantro and parsley, and then I think you have everything that you realistically want. Obviously, it'd be nice if you can do like rosemary and thyme, but I think those are a little bit harder. Potatoes, maybe. Carrots,
Yeah.
Vegetables are, I think, great.
Tater tots.
And then
You guys missed the look that Chronicler just gave me.
Spring onions. I never got I get hash browns. I don't get tater tots. They're not.
I was just making a deployed reference. Yeah.
No, I know, but I don't understand it.
They're just easier to eat, because they come in like bite-sized. You just kind of pick them up.
You can just cut the thing.
Yeah, but you don't have to cut if they're tater tots. Meanwhile, on the top lane, Perfect. Uh-oh, he's just going to burn down. That is first blood. Going over to Zeus in the Skarner versus Rumble matchup. And, yeah, we didn't see how that happened, but we saw that Perfect was getting bullied earlier on. And this is kind of the culmination of it.
Oh, that is insanely rough here for Perfect. Seen this before. Skarner can be deceptively strong if you let him. So the big thing here is Zeus plays really well around his level lead. So hits level 3 is going to be up a skill compared to Perfect. And then Perfect just, I imagine he went Q and E so he doesn't have a scrap shield, which means that there's no way for him to stay alive even though he is in the danger zone. So just ends up going down, has to invest his TP right from the get-go, and losing in this matchup, he's not going to lose value on his ultimate, particularly with Vi Leona. That's always going to be fine, but really you'd love to have some topside pressure, and that's going to be a whole lot harder now with Zeus already getting not only his tier, but a mantle as well.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Ignite utilized.
Ignite. That's really good, actually, because Deft is already back in lane with a call. This is very nice.
It's very good, yeah. It may look a little bit troll, as that's not normally where it is used or how Ignite is utilized, but, in this case, it works out very well. As he didn't want to overcommit, may not have had any, might not have had his E available, not 100% sure. So at the end of the day, it does stop the back, and now Guma has to deal with the call on the side of Deft. And the comp is very strong. I mean, KT come in here looking pretty good from the draft. I am curious, though, how this early game is going to look, especially, we've had a long delay as well, on top of losing the first game where they were ahead. As that's Azeri, you're not getting on top of her. So yeah, I'm curious to see if KT can kind of run it back and try to get another early lead, because I think from ahead, this comp is so dangerous to deal with.
It's really tough, because they have so much great ways to start off fights, and the CC chain is insane. Between Vi, Talia, and then Leona self-defensive, but even Jinx, I think Chompers, if you have another form of CC, actually adds a lot to these big CC chains. The problem is if you do start falling behind, you get in the territory that we see with Nautiluses as well, where the only one that can realistically face check is Beryl, so then Beryl just walks in. It's BDD actually getting some good trades, but he has already backed, so that looks really good, but it is also a bit deceptive as he has already gone back. As long as Faker doesn't die, not really the end of the world for him, as he now will be just able to make his way back to the lane.
Yep, it's actually a good trade for Faker. You know, chip away at BDD, who no longer has the TP. The only good thing for BDD is that, you know, his TP will come up earlier, so potential timing there, but pretty unlikely. As Perfect is going to hit level 6, and, you know, he comes back. He has a potion, and he is getting to work here on Zeus. And it's looking much better compared to the first blood that we did see. So that's good news for Perfect, at least. The first pick, Rumble. You definitely want to get value out of that.
Not getting tilted after a obviously pretty big mistake here early on. And he shouldn't, as I love this. KT should realistically be looking to get all these grubs, because you have Rumble. That ult spike is insanely strong, especially if you rotate over the members of your team. That can provide setup. Perfect, keeping his ward safe as well. And I think T1 make the right call here, end up getting the back. There's really, I think, a great opportunity with Deft having his summers up to try and look for a dive, especially because Owner is towards the top side of the map. Not going to be the case. KT pick up the first cut and should be able to just get all 3 grubs here with the protection given. It's a nice win for them.
Yeah, feels very good. We've seen BDD trying to hit seismic shoves against Faker, and it's just not happening. I don't know. He's not able to hit it. Faker's dodging a lot of them, and so if you're going to utilize that aggressively, it kind of feels bad, as you're not really putting much pressure on the Azir, who will just begin to push eventually. And yeah, it's a pretty balanced matchup at the end of all things. Kind of funny we land on Azir versus Taliyah once again. Kind of makes sense for this matchup, Faker versus BDD. As Biotic is going to find an owner in the jungle. Don't know if he's going to commit to that. As the choppers come down, that's that combo you were talking about. Guma's level 6 though, and pops a Zeri ult. So that's going to be a 1 trade actually for the T1 bot lane, even though the engage came from KTs.
Trade is favorable. We'll see if Owner wants to try and make a play here towards the bot side of the map. He is running, so he can either go for an invade, he can go for Dragon, or he can look to make a play. 6 is about to be hit though, already hit by Deft. I imagine Beryl is also relatively close, so Owner not going to run the risk. There's also no ultimate on Guma, which I think is a good call. As what we saw there, I really like the Viego pick into the Vi because it denies a good target, right? Like, you just can't, as long as the Viego knows what he's doing, can't reliably lock him down with ult. I do think that, as we see there, in these type of matchups, whoever gets the jump on the other one is always going to feel great. So there, Pioche got the time to charge a Q and actually hit Owner. For Owner, it's the same. He's waiting in a brush, and he gets to get his W off and already get a couple of autos in. Can really change how that 2v2 is played. As Keria is just showing that he's not afraid of turrets. He might have to, as they are coming in.
Do they not see them? I mean, this is going to be really big. They get the kill on Aguma for sure, and they're going to hand it over to Deft as well. So the Jinx already starting off excellently here. A little bit down on CS, but he has a call, and he just got a kill, so that's a pretty big Jinx already.
Not sure what happened there with Guma and Keria, because I agree. If you see Deft and Beryl walk up like that, I imagine that they maybe could have made it out if they immediately started walking. Guma would have had to invest the summoners though, and that's the one thing I do like that he doesn't use those, because that would have definitely been a disaster. But I guess they maybe didn't see them as early as we thought that they did, because the moment that they woke up like that, you should have a reasonable doubt that they are not alone. You know, like, back off. Keria gets out. It's not the end of the world, but it is, as you're saying, a really good moment here as Keria tries to get the cancel on Deft. They're mad that Guma didn't get us back earlier. They're really trying to make, and it was also, I think, a nicely set up trap by Deft and Beryl, because what I imagine happened is they were waiting in the brush where there was no vision. Guma and Keria made the read, because remember, Keria actually walked into the turret, which I imagine was to check, are they backing? And then it caught them off guard. So also credit to KT for setting that one up.
Yeah, using hide on bush against them. And just a good timing with Pioche coming over. Get that kill on Aguma. Kills now tied up, and the gold score also tied up rather, as Deft and Guma just going to be 1v1ing for now. We do have the second set of Void Grubs coming up here in 40 seconds. Might see some of the supports roaming up. We already see Keria level 6 up there in the top river.
Also, the gold will, I imagine, still be very even because of the kill, but Perfect has actually been able to fight his way back into the lane. We'll have a decent CS, like nothing crazy, and again, the early kill means that he isn't able to be as oppressive as ideally you'd like to, but I was a little worried, particularly because he is a newer player, that kind of mistake can snowball, but happy to see that at least for now that isn't the case. They're going to really rely on him as well to make his way over. We are also on track for yet another Chemtech Drake, and I just really, I would really like, because we already have taken off Cloud, which is sad, but you know, Cloud's more subtle in its power level.
Yeah.
Then we have Ocean, which isn't that great. So Hextech is amazing. You know, I would love that. Infernal is really cool. Mountain, if you're playing into like a dive composition with Vi, Mountain gets a lot of value. There's tanks on either side, although obviously it's a little bit better for T1 because they'll have Skarner building infinite resistances. If it's Chemtech, then, you know, it's Chemtech again, which is cool for stats. Because it's statistically unlikely.
It is, and I feel like we've had a lot already so far this season.
Yeah.
So, Ox, you know, still a little bit sleepy even into week 3. It's okay. We only blame you for everything. Drake not up yet, so we've still got a minute 20 until that does happen. The buffs, the Void Grubs also did spawn here. I thought they would try to fight for them, but actually it does look like T1 a little bit late to the party if they do want to get up there. I mean, Keria is coming into the mid lane, and Owner is angling towards the top side, but that's the 4. That key number to the side of KT, and Pyosik will say, okay, I'm happy with that, and just backs off of them.
It's already a nice win, as Zeus, pretty sure, yeah, actually nicely done, is able to ensure that he doesn't take the minion aggro earlier so that the plate goes away. Perfect. Finishes his back, has a Leandry, so still a really good back for him. Definitely nice to deny some gold there. Gold's basically, I say basic, it's dead even. It's just, I don't know, like 20, 30 gold in between. We do have more grubs for one team, Dragon for the other. And I want to see a 5v5. See how that is going to look as Guma catches this wave. Shiv done for him. Deft, a lot weaker as of right now. Obviously, the 6 spike for Zeri is always insane, but then when you finish Shiv as well, it's especially scary, whereas Deft not sitting on anything too freaky just yet, and also is about to finish his call. But he won't be able to get it back in before this Dragon fight is going to happen. We'll see if they rotate Perfect over, either with TP or him just walking, as I do think he should have prior towards top, how serious they are about contesting this Dragon.
Yeah, it is a good question. Def not going to be allowed to back, and Keria going to hit level 7 on that minion as well, so
yeah, I like
chance
this read.
now.
Because they know Deft really wants to back, because I'm sure he's sitting on a ton of gold.
Yeah.
And then with the Faker TP, they're basically saying, we're going to trick the Dragon now.
Faker just going on in, wants to take a 1v1. He has Owner coming over as well. BDD in a bit of trouble, does flash, still dies as Owner takes him down. And the 2v1 is set up there in mid. Nice little play from Faker to get them ahead, and that should be another Dragon going to T1.
That is going to be a 2 Drake lead here for T1, right?
I mean, BDD does have TP, but I don't know if they can delay for 15 seconds.
Oh,
wow.
Double TPs.
No TP, and Keria is just going to charm everybody up. The Zeri, nice angle, but they do just press the R button on him, and Guma just burning to a crisp as the Drake. We were right, it does go the way of T1, but a big fight potentially. Over to the side of KT is the Impale here. Zeus just trying to peel for the team. Keria decides, well, I'm dead too. He's going to go down. As Faker just going to flash the wall, trying to survive here. T1 get the Drake, but it is a huge fight for KT.
And KT says we don't care because it's another Chemtech. So who cares that we don't get the Dragon? And I gotta be honest, I saw that TP from Perfect and I thought that was gonna be the end of it. BDD here makes a big mistake, pushes his E down. Faker has a really easy path around it. And the Viego has a ton of innate safety. The Barrel gets a big charm here. And then they get the Vi ult there on top of Gumayushi. The reason why we see this Vi is to lock down the Zeri. Well, she's strong in general, but specifically came up because of how prevalent Zeri was. And Perfect, man. From first blooding to hard 1v9ing a teamfight because the amount of roasting he was doing there, absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I mean, the Vi ultimate was put on the very edge of the equalizer as well, so I believe Gumo was just burning the whole time, and I mean,
and then he got cued back into it, I think, as well.
yeah. I mean, imagine a world where you don't have the Vi to hold him down on that. He just dashes away from it and keeps his distance. He's going to be doing insane amounts of damage, can kind of push them away. But, yeah, I mean, the power of the pick, we've seen it so many times, and that was a beautiful team fight for the side of KT, and a really great example of what this composition can do as well. I mean, this is so difficult for T1 to fight into if one of their carries is just going to die immediately because of the fed carries on the side of KT, plus all of that crowd control that you cannot get away from.
It's the confidence from KT as well, which means a lot to me because this is a team that has been struggling so much. So them being able to be like, guys, I know this is a 4 versus 5, but we can win this. And they could. Really, really big moment there. The problem is, and we immediately see the counterpunch when we get out of the replay, is that T1 have already taken first turret blood. And again, they lose the fight, but they still got 2 dragons, which obviously it's Chemtech, but that does mean that you can also give over more objectives to play for other objectives on the map, play for turrets, play for gold, as opposed to being kind of forced towards these dragons. And we'll see. KT, they're gonna continuously try and accelerate us. Oh my god!
Do you think they care? Do you think they care about the Viego? No, it's just a dead Faker. And they use a lot to get him, but it's a kill, and it's tempo, and it's trying to really utilize every piece of their kit that they have in this composition.
Deft by himself, holding off the mid wave, whereas the rest of his team now towards top 4. Grubs ended up being taken. Pioshik didn't want to run the risk of trying to play for more earlier
Another charge?
on.
Are they gonna send it? No.
No, I think they definitely shouldn't. They don't have that much control in the enemy jungle. But Perfect's able to catch the bot wave. That's a really big win for KT. Do remember though, we gotta see what happens. Thus far, the 5v5 we had, that was amazing. They gotta keep that up.
Oh, going for Deft here, and you know what? I mean, there's the Impale just barely out of range. They get a TP though, and a flash, and a cleanse out of Deft.
Oh, you know, yeah, that's still works.
Pretty huge.
No, that's a very successful gank. I think obviously ideally you'd get Deft and get the mid lane turret, but you get so much for just the flash from Zeus. Love this play though. Faker very often feels safe because he has reinforcements on the way. Unfortunately, there's no outplaying Vi once she gets on top of you. And the Talia wall from BDD really nice. It both zones off T1 while simultaneously getting him out of the play. So very well done there by KT. Deft not having sums though, especially with how Zeus has been playing Skarner. That's a worry because the composition for KT, even with how much damage they have, I think really rely on that Jinx popping off and getting excited and really chewing through what might otherwise be a pretty beefy front line here between Zeus. Owner, I imagine, is going to be going for kind of an off-tank build as well, now that he has his blade. You know, the Bruiser, Snarex, Cleaver, and whatnot.
Yeah, strong. I mean, the front line for T1 is also pretty strong. They don't have, like, the point-and-click uncleansable CC with the Vi, but, you know, we talked about it a lot. If the summoners are down, you don't necessarily need that. I mean, they have a Rakan. It really bolsters the amount of hard engage that they have in this composition. And that job is going to be on Carrier. He's found a lot of nice angles, but there hasn't been a lot of good follow-up on them. So yeah, I would assume that as we get into more standard, you know, structured 5v5s, the Rakan's role is going to play a pretty huge part in them.
And that's KT don't want to play straight up 5v5s, right? They want to have someone flanking, they want Pioshik in the back line. They want to try and create as much chaos as possible and keep him in his corridor where the equalizer can do a whole lot.
So Barrel's going to go in. The TP immediately channeled here as a lot is used to try to get on top of Owner, but he just gets away with his ult, and now it's a 5v5 without equalizer, without the solar flare, as now Faker's coming in. Carrier also going to proc that ultimate. Zeri over the wall here, but a lot of low health bars on the side of T1, and now getting into that back line is perfect, doing so much damage, and now Faker and Guma have no front line anymore, as everybody just died outside of those two. They have to back away, and KT get the Drake.
And this time around, KT step up from game number 1, where they weren't able to fight the team fights, win 2 back-to-back, 1 4v5, 1 5v5, with Perfect roasting them. And they're gonna try and take the Baron here. A T1 Classic 20 minutes in. We'll see if they're able to pull it off. There's no jungler, but there is a lot of damage, and oh, this is very early.
It is very early, and Guma's going to try to poke them down. Keria and Faker also coming over. The TP as well
God.
from Zeus. This is getting so spicy. Pioshik, though, is able to get the objective. Should be at least 2 kills to the side of T1 as they take down both Pioshik and Beryl. But Keria looking for a bit more. BDD. Somehow he did not get knocked off that wall. Maybe he had a shield or something on top of that, but either way, he is going to get away, and KT will hold on to 3 Baron buffs.
As we see, the initial blow is actually absorbed really well here by T1. Owner is able to ult out, and then the equalizer is gone, so they feel really confident. But there is still, because of Perfect, no way for the damage. Like, Duma and Owner barely get to play in that fight. Duma has to E in, but at that point, it feels like the front line of T1 has already vanished because of the Rumble. And then here, things get a little scary, as this is such an early Baron. I really like the buffs they did to Baron because it actually feels like a threat now, especially. And we see that here. But unfortunately, they're not actually able to get the lockdown. There's obviously no Owner available to try and go for a Hail Mary steal. And KT, this is the first time that they've been able to actually build a sizable gold lead, and it's only going to go bigger and bigger as they should be able to, at the very least, get these outer turrets. So mid now falling. Imagine they want to look towards bot as well.
Yeah, and eventually, from this far ahead, they have so much damage that if you pick anyone, you know, even the Skarner at a certain point, if you have enough penetration, you're just going to blow them up, and you have so much to follow up on it that you don't necessarily want to target him, but it gives you a lot of freedom in terms of, you know, just being able to isolate targets, take them down, make it a 5v4 real quick, and essentially do whatever you want. And Perfect, so you talked about it, you know, eats first blood, kind of a rough trade, and now he's on top of the damage dealt. Not a big surprise for a Rumble, but at the same time, he's very far ahead of everybody else, and he's really built up a massive lead for himself in this game.
Also, imagine this is one of those games where Orcs saw the Rakan get locked in. It was like, oh, there's Vi, there's Talia. I'd have wanted to look for a different angle because right now, it doesn't feel like T1 are getting any of the fights that they're looking for. And now we're getting to the point where before I'm like, if Def dies, you know, I think KT might be in trouble. That's not the case. Like, BDD, Def, and Perfect all are perfectly capable of just 1v9ing a team fight.
Well, they're trying to go on a Zeus. They're trying to test my theory, and you know what? I think it's going to work, especially with the Talia wall. They can pick anyone on the side of T1. And Faker, you know, he's doing his thing over on the left side of the map here. He's trying to trade an inner turret, and he might just be able to. Only 14 seconds left on the Rebel Baron power play, but KT are going to utilize that last little smidgen of it, and they should be able to take this inhibitor. And look for more. Actually, they're going to force the TP out of Faker.
Vect is excited.
They will get it.
That's a bot lane in it. A really good Baron power play coming through here from KT. Able to knock down mid-outer, mid-inner. Then the 2 bot lane turrets as well, and the inhib to boot. Colossal winner, and this is what we're seeing as the rest of the team just has to respect great use of the Talia wall to ensure that everyone has the time to actually chew through. And Zeus is like, yeah, no, I'm dragging them just away from my team. There's no way that I'm ever getting out of here. A small win for Owner. That's when you're a jungler, you know, and you're in this type of game state and you get the blue buff, you're like, at least I'm getting something. Yeah. Because life has not been great.
You got to get something, and take a look at that level difference. It is a full 2 levels ahead for Perfect. He's almost level 16 on Rumble, 24 minutes into the game. And at that point, you drop an equalizer, and you might not even need CC. Like, people are nearly going to die. This is going to target people down as now. Speaking of which, the flash on into Guma, and he's going very deep for that one. As Guma does have to flash and dash all the way over the wall. But now at least Guma is down a flash.
We'll see if that's enough. Didn't use the equalizer, crucially. That's the cooldown we're going to be looking out for is Perfect.
Yeah, the wall is good. Zeus isolated once again. We're fighting over a singular Chemtech Drake as the Impale. This time pretty good, but the follow-up is not there. Finally, Keria gets in, but look at the damage already as Faker goes in. They take out the Jinx, but now the Rumble is just melting everyone. As he is full health, Guma desperate to try to do something, but it's not gonna matter. You talked about it, Chronic. There's so many threats on this KT roster. From this far ahead, they will absolutely destroy you, and that might just be the end of the game.
And the telecom war delivers, Feldes, as we're about to go to a game number 3. KT got control in the early game in game 1 and then weren't able to close it out. And when Perfect died, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
That's not what you want to see, but he bounces back. Pioshik on the Vi has an incredible performance. Beating these walls were great. And we're going to game number 3.
Game number 3s are real between these two teams. Not really what I was expecting, but KT, they have stepped up to another level here in the telecom war on a big stage for the home ground, you know?
Oh, and Perfect and Pioshik in the back there giving each other, you know, some shoulder taps. Good job. We did it. We got a win against T1, and if you asked us this 2 weeks ago, that would have seemed impossible. I don't know if this is going to go the way of that Challengers, you know, where T1 won first game and then KT closed out the series. That might be a little bit too much to ask for. T1 is going to go back to blue side, and I think even in this game, we saw some of what the threats that normally the team would rely on, but man, KT bouncing back in a big way.
I'm glad that we have KT back at the LCK, because we were missing them for a while. Perfect eats first blood, does double the damage of almost everybody on the side of T1. Gumayusi, the only one who is half the damage, more than half the damage of Perfect. So just insane amounts. And, you know, the team helped set him up. He's able to say, okay, there's one target. I put my equalizer on them. But the fact that he was able to build up a lead to be a big threat in this one, definitely big-time points, and maybe he picks up the POG. But either way, guys, we're done for game number 2. We're going to take a break and have the space. We'll be right back.
하나 높여.
네, 조심.
봐봐. 나 호응 되고. 오케이. 나 아래서 가려는 각 볼게 이거.
나 위치 좋았다 이거.
발라볼게. 좀만 더 아니라 볼각 할게 이거.
바블레 바블레.
스카너 앞으로 스카너 높을 스카너 높을. 야 아니야. 나 죽게는 볼만해. 비에고 높을. 비에고 도고. 아, 나 이거 높으려고. 아따면 펼치갈게.
끝내.
아, 나이스 잘했다. 이거야.
It's a drop, but it was very sad. It was walking home alone in the darkness, listening to DK lose.
Yeah.
It was painful.
It was rough. But thankfully, it's 3 years later, and we have this wonderful telecom war. And let's take a look at the draft so far.
Hey!
T1, they did this, you know, same bans in game 1 when they were on blue side.
Tristana. Yeah. obviously, guys, this draft has already been done, so everything's going to be snappy. But we knew that Tristana was immediately going to come through. So the Viego, I think, is preemptively a pick to give the possibility of a Vi less value. Owner hasn't really been as enamored with AP junglers outside of specifically Nidalee. Now, I don't think it's necessarily a thing of can't play, but it is what T1 has been prioritizing. Owner is generally more facilitative roles, unless it is the Nidalee, in which case he does get to be the main character for a little bit. Lulu taken away again, obviously with the Zeri coming through, no surprise. The Nautilus is still up, so my expectation would be that it's probably going to be Ezreal Nautilus as it turns out, Owner going to be playing Zyra here, and it's Braum to finish off the draft. R5 Braum here for Barrel. Huh.
I don't know what to expect from that.
Okay, this is a bit too many curveballs with the speed that this draft has gone.
Yeah, so I just allowed, there wasn't a lot of time. I didn't get to talk. I was writing the whole time.
Oh, no, you have to. Okay, gut feeling, Feldas.
I mean, I think T1 are very far ahead in this draft. I don't think the Braum does a whole lot, to be honest. You already have a decent amount of engage, or rather range on the side of T1. I think, you know, he's kind of going to stand there and block some plant bullets and maybe throw down an ult and then just die. I don't really see the counter pick value out of that pick, and I feel like as a whole, the T1 draft looks really strong, and I feel like there's no such gap that we saw in Game 2.
Would agree with that, and also agree with you that the T1 comp, when we look at just champions that currently are in the meta, Tristana with an AP jungler is basically a recipe for success. Additionally, you have a very beefy front line. It's going to be a bit of a tough one here for KT. I do think, though, if you can get BDD and or Deft ahead, and you can just sit there, fire off skill shots, and maybe use that as a way, and then they can't really engage as much because of the Braum. But it's pretty narrow. Maybe the level 1 invade to flip the game with that Braum. Could be an angle, Veldas.
Let's see how it goes. Let's hop into the rift for Game 3.
수환사의 축구대 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Oh, KT fans.
KT fans are going nuts. I mean, they were definitely a bit more quiet, but they were the intensity of it.
It was visceral.
Yeah.
Veldas.
They know they have to make up in terms of quantity, and they did a great job. Faker is, well, he's found the enemy team. There's a Braum there. Barrel absolutely going to flash there. Trade
the level
flash
1!
to Faker, and you know what? Over the wall, that's the stun. Faker's dead!
It's the level 1!
And it goes to Deft as well! And
Oh, can
Guba,
he get another?
one auto. Yep, there's the
Gonna
stun.
have to use his cleanse at
That's
least.
the cleanse, and now he's going to be late to lane. Faker should know about the Braum level 1. That
Wait,
should not have happened.
That's actually so big as well. Like, perfect with that invade. Actually,
plants.
no plants. So that's going to substantially
Rip buff
slow
gone.
down. So cleanse gone, flash gone, owner's clear, which is one of the biggest advantages that you have, already going to be put on the back foot. Has to invest his smite right from the get-go. This is basically as good of a start as you're realistically going to get for KT.
I mean, yeah. I mean, everybody's there. So you can't be there. It's as simple as that.
Oh, Barrel. Oh, and you always have to mention it whenever Braum is picked, because he is arguably the best level 1 champion in the game. Like, his passive is so insanely strong. And that late invade is something that T1, I think, got caught off guard by. Now it means that Owner, I imagine, will still be able to just clear towards the top. Will get spotted, though. And if you do get on top, Pioshik does have a lot of power. It says a lot about Zyra's clear that even with Pioshik getting a leash and Owner like being slowed down, he's still pretty, like, what, 10 seconds ahead on the clear. So it's just going to be some vertical jungling here, but I don't think you mind that, given that Deft already sitting on Elite. And Gumayushi is going to have to be very, very careful here, because with no cleanse, maybe they want to look for an early dive if they can get more poke down.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many things that were taken away from T1, the cleanse, the flash, the late to lane stuff, but yeah, the fact that Def gets this first blood and gets to lane in a really good spot is pretty huge. I mean, you just don't have any pressure from your bottom lane now. On the side of T1, they're going to be relatively far behind. We saw that Zeri Alistair, very strong bottom lane duo, and just in general, those two champs have been winning a lot individually as well. You know, they get that, but it's not going to quite look the same with how far they are behind at this point. You know, as the game comes along, I'm sure Guma will stabilize, but he's still going to be behind the 8-ball when it does come to some of this stuff. As, okay, gonna dash that.
I think we missed it, but I think either Guma or Keria got one of the medium-sized Krugs, because Pioshik actually is down a creep, and like he didn't hit level 3 until he actually finished his own blue, even though he did a full-side bot clear. So that actually ended up mattering a decent amount, because, you know, with the lower level, don't have as many points in your abilities, so it is really going to hurt your ability to clear. As we do see here, it's time spent in enemy jungle, but it's basically just a split of the jungle. The main question is, can we get anything out of it, as Faker did just go in.
Yeah, he's going in. I feel like he's almost trying to make up for what happened earlier, but that's going to put him behind even further as BDD picks up the kill. No flash for Faker, hops in, immediately punished. As Pioshik, it was like the perfect timing for him to go back, buy up, and run straight to mid lane and get the gank.
Remarkable as well that he walks into the brush, gets spotted, sees the ward as well, and I think the timing are just impeccable. I imagine Faker just jumped in. If you get the full autos, then obviously you get the reset on your jump. As yeah, look, oh, that timing. And he can't walk up, like BDD does a good job there, walking away, ensuring that you don't actually get, as even in the picture-in-picture, like even if he doesn't die, it doesn't matter, he just TP back to lane. That's a huge win for KT.
Yeah, no, it's massive. I think that's, I don't really know the idea, but really trying to put on as much pressure as possible and at least help the rest of his team get into a position to, you know, have at least an even lane state. He's still trying to trade here on top of soldiers. BDD's like, thank you very much, I will enjoy that. As Owner's also going to be spotted, so that's a nice amount of information as to where exactly he's going to be. And there's another ward to spot him, has to be scanned.
The tracking is good, but that ward from BDD, I think, not the best, because the chance of getting spotted is relatively high. You already know he's going to be pathing towards the top side of the map. Most notably, though, Pioshik's early activity is really good for his lanes, but it also means that he is actually falling pretty substantially behind, right? Is now just hit level 5 as well, but is still pretty far behind when it comes to experience compared to Owner. Obviously picked up his Faded Ashes. The difference maker, though, is that Barrel is already out on the map. So at the very least, they're going to be able to get, I want to say 2, and it looks like with that confirmation, they're probably just going to trade free grubs for the Dragon, as Owner should be able to get through that relatively quickly.
As we do have a pause. We'll see what this is about. And, you know, generally audio issues are relatively easy to fix, but if we have another audio issue on top of what we had with the draft situation, could be a little bit of a rough spot, but we don't have any information at the moment, guys, so it's just conjecture from me. We'll have to wait and see exactly what the issue is, as the fans are desperate to try to get T1 back on their feet after that really rough early game.
Looks like Faker taking off his headset there. Imagine that's just going to be a headset swap, and then hopefully all the issues will be quickly resolved. Thus far, KT in the early game taking control, very reminiscent of game number 1. The main issue that they had there that they were able to fix in game 2 with Perfect going monster mode and Rumble was that they weren't actually able to win the 5v5s. And that's where I do look at the composition that is available for T1, and I still would exercise a little bit of caution. I won't have to tell KT fans because they live in a perpetual state of caution.
Yeah.
But specifically the ability of T1 to find just straight front to backs, very boring. Like one good scoop into a Zyra ult like can lose you the game. So it is going to be really, really paramount that KT doesn't group up necessarily, or that everyone is ready to either, you know, interrupt Faker when he tries to go for a play like that, to not get multi-man comboed by the Alistar. As long as they do that with the lead that they have, it's nothing insane, but particularly with champions like Viego, if you do get early leads, you can really run away with the game.
Yeah, you definitely can. You know, just got confirmation is an audio issue. Faker's headset is being tested at the moment. Nobody on the other side is able to discuss the game. Nobody on the T1 side is either. So they just sit and wait and hope that the issue is resolved and we get back into the game. I'm curious about what kind of impact Faker is going to have in this one after falling very far behind already 0-2 down a teleport and, you know, getting chunked out in lane at the same time. We'll have to wait and see how this does develop through the mid lane because Pioshik, you know, he identified the weak target early on knowing he didn't have flash, was able to punish it already and might be looking for some more.
Early grubs are going to go over here as expected. T1 clearly not wanting to contest for that. Deft also is in the great position of not facing Skarner this time around. He also had a much better game individually on the Jinx, but that was, I'd say, the biggest reason as to why the team fights went as poorly as they did.
Well, here's the scoop. Very nice buffer here from Faker. And he's going to trade his W for a ultimate ability from the Azir. Obviously, the damage still goes through, but looks like he is able to stabilize quite a bit there in that mid lane. The CS still very comparable, very even here between those two.
Right now, looking at the lane states, top doesn't matter. It's two tanks. They're trading grasp stacks. Their TPs are on the same timer. Mid, we do see Faker going in aggressively. BDD, if he had his ult, could have maybe done something there. Not going to be the case. And then Faker probably gone in. Would have been a bit higher, but almost out of mana as well. So I imagine both of them are going to be looking for a back. BDD looking to go towards Nashers again. Do note, though, that there wasn't really a possibility for T1 to go for this Dragon. Me and the KTs both going to get 3 grubbies as well as an early Drake.
Yeah, I mean, you saw them kind of hovering around it and trying to get some pressure around the Drake, but Beryl just kind of had to stand there, and they were denied of any real entry into the river. As there is a Skarner here. Owner is in a lot of trouble. He gets knocked up against the wall. The Impale is going to miss. And so they'll just stop there. So kind of unfortunate for Perfect. The angle was a bit off. Keria is being bullied a little bit, but Owner over here with Faker.
Yeah, at the very least should be able to get flash there. Owner did have flash, so shouldn't, as oh, very close there for Deft. So he shouldn't realistically ever get taken down by the Impale. But yeah, Perfect. Predicting a sidestep that probably didn't have to try and predict. Big miss, and means that Owner does hold on to his clutch, which is a really big cooldown, especially on Zyra, who does not have any other form of escape except standing her ground and trying to blow you up.
Yeah, and she can do that pretty well, but you know, has to be in a position where she's not dying immediately, at least, so she can cast her abilities. If you do impale her in a fight and she hasn't been able to do that, you're probably going to win that fight against the Zyra. And Faker still being bullied here quite a bit. Getting the zoom in from Jonah Strong, thinking BDD's going to go for something. Could certainly try to make a play, but Owner is coming on up. Beryl has been very proactive around the map, just clearing a lot of vision around the bottom side. Owner will deny him a clear on that control ward, though. And KT enjoying another early lead. This looks a little bit like what we had in game number 1, at least in terms of like the gold diff and stuff like that. Obviously different drafts and different situation, but still another opportunity for KT with 3 early games in a row, essentially, that they win, and could be 2 wins in their win column if they do, you know, pull it together from early to mid.
All gonna come down to, can T1 ensure that they find the same level of team fighting that they did before? I want to talk a little bit about some of the more intricacies when we get to the 5v5s, because both teams realistically are going to be looking, right? You have double tank front line. Tristana and Azir are both good inside lane, so it's not like they can't split push, but don't think that that is going to be the main focus. Although Faker might want to try and maybe get a turret at some point, you know, give up a second or third Drake so that you can get some gold back into this Tristana. But KT's engage is basically the opposite of what they had last game. Last game they had some of the best engage tools in the world. This time around you have negative engage, realistically. If you get somewhere first.
Yeah, Pioshi getting on top of Owner. He's just going to throw his whole kit on the ground. Tries to flash over to Zeus, but now the Impale going to catch him, and Owner goes down. A lot of damage being done by the All Out, but now BDD comes over. He wants more. He wants blood. He wants to take down Cassante, and that he will. Perfect picks up the kill. It's 2 more on the scoreboard to KT.
KT Valdez. This team has defied expectations, both in negative and positive ways, so many times. But is it actually happening after the as we said, someone probably should have predicted.
Yep.
Because if everyone predicts T1, isn't there a chance? Isn't there an inkling? And here we see the issue with Zyra. Once you get on top of her, she doesn't have a whole lot of recourse, and it's, again, I think crucially, it's BDD who's early on the play. It's Beryl who was early on the rotation, and you can see this alone is not enough, but this team has struggled so much, both in-game and out of game, over the last couple of weeks, and right now are sitting at a 2K gold lead against the reigning world champions and the team that was so obviously the second best in the LCK last split. If they could actually get a win on the Saturday Showdown after the first couple of weeks they had, and I'm not saying that will happen, and we should all just kind of chill out.
Just chill out,
Just
Chronicler.
chill out.
God.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll take it. I take everything back. Really, if you think
Let's
about
just
it,
pretend the last minute didn't
if
happen.
you think about it hard enough, you know how they're gonna get objectives. They don't have engage.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yoshi can't just always
I guess they're
run in and
just
W.
gonna, sit back, let T1 come back. Surely.
Yeah.
No, I think that KT in this position, really, really strong. They're getting a lot of plates. I mean, BDD got 1 mid. Deft is picking up 3. And I think all 3 of those were solo, too. He just got 2 here. He got the first one alone. So just 3 extra plates on First Blood Ezreal, and it's Deft that's piloting it. Yeah, he didn't have a good first game, but this is a different game. And he's not playing against Skarner, which for some reason was his counter on Ezreal. But this is a different situation, you know, and KT, they got that win in game 2, right? It does feel like they've kind of shaken the jitters off, the big crowd there over at the Goyang Sono Arena. BDD actually has picked up 2 plates now, and he's looking for a third. I mean, this is really widening the gap in gold right now.
And the big thing is, because of those earlier kills they found on Owner, they got 6 grubs. Like, that is an insane amount of power for BDD and Deft specifically. Deft has his W, BDD obviously with the Nashor's first has an incredible amount of attack speed.
Faker can't defend this alone.
No, and he'll be able to make it out. Still has
4
some.
plates?
They might just take this straight up.
5? A turret before 14?
The grubs!
Carrier's getting in there, and the grubs, they get it, the first turret, and all of the plates before 14 minutes. Carrier desperate to try to stop them, but instead he's just going to go down. Guma has to get away from the Impale, and Perfect is very tanky. He's still getting in there as Carrier finally will be taken down. The reset comes in, and now the rest of the team is getting baited into this one. Although Zeus is coming in from the top lane, gets the all-out on a Pioshik, who is in a bit of trouble. Does get over the wall there, but he is going to go down. It's a double kill over to Guma. And did KT overextend as BDD finally makes his way back? He's looking for a bit more as Guma will get away. Zeus' stun does come down, but that is Cassante, ladies and gentlemen, as he will get away. Faker, meanwhile, was back here, and he'll hop away.
It gets a little silly, Valdez. we're getting crazy with it. I'm not sure what just happened. We're gonna go for it when we get to the replay. Perfect impales unfortunately remain a big problem area. I like the gusto of KT. Going for this turret I think is great. I do not physically comprehend how Carrier was able to not die here. One of the big things is that Perfect goes off by himself and then whiffs the ult on Guma, meaning that Guma's fine. Carry actually gets to pilot out, and because of his ult, doesn't go down until much later.
Uh-oh.
And then, oh no.
Walls aren't real. Not against Skarner. And Owner's in a bit of trouble, but he drops down the ult, and now the follow-up comes in from T1 as Pyosik has to flash away. But here comes Deft. He's doing a lot. Faker trying to pop him out of this fight, actually. But the first kill will go on Aguma. Faker does get the assassination, but Pyosik is Zeri. And now he has gone back into the Viego form as the Imperial again is going to miss. And I mean, I don't know how he keeps missing it, but it's okay. He's got some rocks to throw, and he's going to throw it into that front line, into both of them. There's no escape for the two members of T1. They will both be killed by Pyosik. And that is 6 kills now for Pyosik on this Viego.
They just keep committing. T1 wanting to set up for the river fight. Like, perfect. He doesn't get the wall slam. Then Pyosik goes in without ult, so he basically gets almost zeroed. He's fine. Faker tries to kill Deft. Then Deft already gets out before he gets the opportunity to jump on top of his head, which means that Faker has to get into a position where he effectively uses his escape. And even perfect 100% miss rate on Impales doesn't change the fact that two members of T1 are stuck in the pit with Braum standing guard. And the fact that Pyosik somehow ends up getting all these messy fights, this is what Viego lives for.
Yeah.
Braum as well, like, it doesn't matter if KT doesn't have great engage, if T1 is just walking into fight and skirmish after skirmish. Because if you can just get one kill and weave in and out, like that fight started with him at 20% health.
Yeah. That's fine.
But shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of an issue. I mean, KT just got such a huge lead, and they have the confidence they can beat T1 because they won in game 2.
I love that highlight on the experience there as well. Owner is playing Zyra into Viego. Like, obviously, the gold is going to be skewed because of how fat Pyosik is, but realistically, the level of pace you should be able to get on Zyra is what makes her so strong. And in my opinion, Zyra is one of the hardest AP champions to play. I feel like Talia, once you kind of get a feel for her and, you know, learning to hit Ws on your own can be tough, but if you have a good comp for it, it really plays itself in many ways. The rotations are really easy. You have a great jungle clear. I think Karthus is also a great example of, realistically, if you just full clear and press R at good times and throw a wall and a skittle down every now and then, you'll be okay.
Fine.
But for Zyra, your positioning needs to be so much crisper because you just blow up, and unlike Brand, I feel like you really want to get multiple rotations up, where if it's a Brand, you know, if your passive triple stack is spreading, you're probably winning the team fight anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And
you know.
I know. Pyosik is here, and he wants to fight. They want to get on top of a Cassante, though. It's not going to be easy. And they're just going to drop the Rift Heralds, not really actually try to kill Zeus here, just try to pressure this bottom lane. And it's going to be big, especially once we do get to Baron territory. You know, put as much pressure down in the bottom lane as possible, maybe even break down an inhibitor, then you've got a lot of pressure on that very important objective. But it's Hextech Soul, which I didn't even realize.
No, because there's been we didn't talk about the fact Deft also has gone teleport and Beryl went for heal, right? So that also gives you a ton of utility when you get to the mid to late game. You can park Deft in the side lane. This would be big, but no. And this early on, I don't think the Zeri really has a realistic chance of stealing this. But this is the first relevant Soul. And Ezreal and Azir with Hextech Soul, who cares if you don't have, you know,
Skarner.
The best, well, oh god, yeah. Even Viego can really make good use of the attack speed. His poke actually is really dumb. But the slow adds so much value as well for a composition where obviously I haven't run into any issues because T1 has just been walking face first into them. But there won't be an issue if you are, oh, that's mean. If you're able to get that Hextech Soul in right now. Like, I talked about the T1 wombo combo. You're going to have to get one hell of a wombo combo. And realistically, I know Deft had a lot of oopsies in game number 1, but Ezreal, Azir, and Viego should not be easy to lock down into a big wombo combo, Azir or Alistar into Zyra type of play.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, he's not going up against Skarner, his counter, so I think realistically he should be fine.
Come on, Valdez.
Also, everything I said about the draft you know, it doesn't end up mattering much because the Braum actually, you know, you've talked about it a lot. You engage in that, he's going to enjoy it and just hanging out. The Braum is going to feel good. You hold up a door against double AD carry from ahead. There are angles to get value out of it. It's not like he picks, you know, Singe support or anything like that. So, you know, Barrel's been actually having a pretty good game on this one. Outside of even the level 1, he's been very proactive all around the map. Just doing general support things, can pretty much be playing any champion.
Could be putting a little bit more points in E, you know, that's the...
Yeah, we're not going to ask
we'll-
too much of him, you know. Maybe Ox will on the desk.
We'll leave that as Deft does now finish his transformation. The 2 items done for him. KT, you can start threatening. Like, obviously, you need to sweep out the ward, but
the Korean side was heavily showing this off. That the fact that T1 knew 100% they weren't doing Baron, so
now
there wasn't any reason to face check them.
Oh, they don't. Oh, I love this. The suspense.
Yeah,
they're just backing.
they're not even there.
Because if you're KT, as long as you don't lose Baron, and I really love they keep BDD here, stagger the backs to make sure that if they do try, BDD can go and try to delay, because they don't have the control necessary to go for a big Baron play this time around. KT can just keep setting up traps. If someone walks in, it's great, and if not, you can set T1 for an impossible choice where you can either go for, you know, for Dragon, and then if they get Baron, who cares? It's a Hextech Soul. Gonna be able to win out on that trade. Or you can just keep setting up and keep fishing with Perfect, and I'm sure one of these fights he's gonna hit an Impale. He isn't even playing bad. This is the funniest part.
Yeah.
Like, only his Impales.
Only his Impales. He's like always in the right spot, always
good,
you know,
flanks,
good target acquisition. Just, you know, needs to press R button a little bit more better.
Mostly better. He's pressing it plenty of times.
Yeah.
It does have a bit of
the
a
quality
wind-up.
of them, yeah.
But that didn't stop Zeus in game on.
Yeah. The wind-up itself, I feel like it's actually pretty quick. It looks like it's longer than it actually is. You can really get caught off guard by that, actually. I remember when I was first playing against Shane Skarner. As Beryl, he's got a wall. It's not leveled up, but that's okay. The poke is coming in, and they're even going to get a flash out of Karya, who says, well, I don't want to blow my ult here, so I'll just flash instead.
You got to start it up here. Karya doesn't have his flash. Oh, KT. Yeah, so this just tells us they want to play for Drake. They don't want to risk it. Baron is a much more high-risk objective.
Yeah.
It's easy to... We're only 23 minutes in. This isn't...
Yes.
We're not like 30-something where, you know, I think the Baron is less of a threat. You get through it relatively quick. You stay a lot healthier.
Yeah, because if they start it and they lose, then you lose Baron and you don't get Hextech Soul.
Yeah,
and immediately T1 are back in the driver's seat somehow.
They haven't lost a turret this game, and then multiple turrets are going to fall. A lot of standing gold there for T1.
Yeah, better to play it safe.
They're so close, Valdez. If they get either Hextech Soul or Baron, that might be enough.
I'm very even keel about this. I'm not expecting anything, actually.
Nothing on the inside, nothing on the outside.
Yeah,
it's just a game of League of Legends.
Just hanging out, playing some League. And Karya, he does have that very nice support item. Keep him alive, some opposition to the damage of Deft.
Is on cooldown now, though.
Yeah. And I think it's more so a show of just how strong Deft is at this point in time. He's got 2.5 items. He is chunking people. And, I mean, Guma's in a similar spot, but especially from ahead, the poke from the Ezreal is going to be very, very oppressive. And there's not much vision at all here for T1.
Oh, they know. Yeah, they have to flip it on this fight. It's all or nothing. I don't know if they can get to the pin in time. Owner can get there. No!
No, they're just not going to get there on time. It's just a Hextech Soul, just like that, and they want to take the fight after Vicious. He goes in, and you know what? He's trying to get on top of a Sonya's BDD, who is going to live for now. He goes in, he gets the sweep on the 2. As he gets pretty low, they take him down, but Pioshik's still alive.
No resets!
But no resets, and Guma now is shelling them down. How did T1 win this fight? How is this happening? As Perfect now all alone, he's going to be taken down at T1 to get the Baron.
Oh, that is so much gold into the pockets of T1. Baron Bounty about to come up here, and it's the target selection that just isn't there. Pioshik needs 1 kill to pop off. 1! And everything looks good, right? Zeus gets slow. BDD gets his stopwatch. And then this is where the trouble begins. They can peel off here. They can just let Def die and have that be the end of it. But Barrow wasn't in the fight. They're basically fighting so fragmented. Their main damage dealers are either Zonya stop or dead.
Yeah, they both sent themselves into the fight.
Just leave!
1v5.
Just leave! You get...
So Def Arcane shifted the wall to try to get the kill onto Zeus. Misses the Mystic shot, dies immediately. BDD after that goes in, gets a divide onto two people.
Got a two-man shuffle though.
So, yeah, got a two-man shuffle, didn't do much, didn't get any kills, didn't have Zonya's, dies immediately. So you don't have any damage, you don't have a gold lead anymore if both of those guys are gone.
Hear me out. We were getting too ahead of ourselves. They still have Hextech Soul. They're just equaling it up so that there's less. We got to keep it down, Valdez.
Sorry.
That is a roller coaster of a gold graph.
So T1, I mean, credit to them, they essentially were like, okay, they're a little bit fragmented, they're not really set up well for a fight. We have Zeus on a flank. Let's try to force this. And at first I was really worried because Zeus nearly died. But the fact that he doesn't die and stays alive and drags all of the DPS straight into his team so that Faker and Guma, who are just shelling huge amounts of damage even from behind, can just shred everybody down, especially the squishies that got themselves out of position. That's a fantastic fight for T1. Yeah, they lost the Hextech Soul, but now they have Baron and the gold is even, so it's anybody's game from here.
After or during game number one, we were like, what if it's a challenger situation? What if it was all just building up to it coming down to this one flip? And we fought that in game one, and then the fight was basically lost before the flip happened.
Yeah.
Surely this time will be different, Valdez. The Hextech Soul, the value is so nuts. If you can just hit a little bit of poke, we see for T1, Guma sitting at 3 items. His Ws are going to be doing a whole lot of damage. The good thing for KT is that they didn't lose too much of the base, right? They gave up an individual lowers.
Here comes the combo. It's Beryl, and he's Braum, and he is very tanky, and he's actually going to get away. As now True Shot Barrage going to do a bunch of damage to Zeus and Guma, but yeah, a decent amount used to try to get Beryl there, but at the end of the day, he survives. It is going to take him out of the fight, and meanwhile, Faker utilizing that Baron buff in the top lane to try to get themselves even ahead on gold at this point in time.
You gotta feel though the shift that's happened when it comes to the momentum of the game. It's T1 calling the shots. Should be harder the moment that this Red Bull Baron power play is gonna end. At the end of it now, they didn't get the mid lane turret. They got both outers in the side lane, so it's still a colossal win for T1. There was what, like a 6-7k gold deficit? That's gone.
Yeah.
They're still facing down a Hextech Soul. And as long as KT is able to get to Elder first, take control of their own jungle, get there first, and just have Deft and BDD proc that Hextech Soul again and again and again. Don't take poke, don't walk into flanks, don't let Zeus distract you from just killing one single person on the enemy team. And please, Perfect, find some people to impale. And I want KT to win. It would be such a cool story.
Well, might not happen. Faker is going to get out, and he was trying to, you know, we saw this yesterday with Sponge getting baited by the
oh yeah,
by the Void Scuttle. I think it was Sponge.
Yeah, no, the Zyran and T1 TP'd behind them, and
Genji.
then
Right.
No, I'm thinking of a different.
Whoa.
I'm thinking of another
this happen
Zyra
twice?
that I think I think it was Sponge who got.
Maybe it was T1, I don't know. Faker's gonna get poked out in a big way.
There's the soul.
Yeah, and you know, they still got that. So we're essentially saying, okay, T1, they have come back in a huge way in this game, but KT are still in control. They still have Hextech Soul, and the goal is even, but yeah, I mean, as long as you don't send yourself into a Zeri and a Tristana and get totally out of position, you're in a good spot.
There are the backs. Gonna be taking our portals. Gonna be making our way over. Everyone's gonna sit on a bunch of control wards. Free items done. For
Elixir.
BDD. Free items done for Deft. This is what's gonna decide the game. Perfect actually finished his Randuin's super high value against the double AD carry comp. This is the moment. We're gonna have to see KT either poke them down or find a target for Pioshik so they can actually start resetting and take over these fights. He's a very fed member. You want to try and play around him.
Yeah, just don't go all in into the Cassante. I think you're probably feeling pretty good. Faker does get away, but IE is complete here for Guma. 4 items for him, only 3 for Deft. And the Elder has spawned. So here we go, 2-shot barrage. Decent amount of damage already on her. Eating some damage from the Elder Drake. And it's gonna come down to positioning and the way this fight is gonna break out.
For KT, I think you want to play slow. Faker TPing to get pressure on the side wave. Join the rest of his team. Doesn't run the risk of getting caught.
XXL already getting some nice value with those Mystic shots. And KT, you know, they've dragged this Drake over to their side, and they're just allowing T1 to try to tank it up. Ascaria looking for an engage, but he's getting extremely low. Has to go into his ult. Now he has to engage, but it comes down to a flip, and it goes to Pioshik. As BDD goes in, immediately the Braum goes down. The supports are out, but the resets are coming in, and the Elder Drake is doing its job. Faker and Guma still alive, though, as now trying to go back in here is Zeus. Not sure about that, as Pioshik going to be able to take him down. The TP's coming in. KT, they get the Drake. Can they get the game?
Is that going to be it? Zeus going back in there. I don't think he ever gets out. Was so close to killing Pioshik. Pioshik, I think, got the ult on Q3 there. Even with the Elder buff.
Oh, they're going
It was
Baron.
a tough one. Yeah, they have to. There are still 2 great sources of wave clear available. The health bars are low, and if they run the risk of losing that Elder buff, they can't afford to. And it is Challengers, baby!
It's Challengers, baby.
Just an Elder flip. Keria tries so hard to keep Pioshik out, but he ults in, gets the smite, and then the fact that the fight is even remotely close, testament to T1's ability to fight. Guma, I imagine his damage numbers after that one are going to be off the chart. But look at those icons. Look at those borders for perfect Pioshik and BDD.
They are Exodia colored.
And Deft is the only one who didn't get anything, man.
Yeah.
No Elder, no Baron. At least Barrel's got a Baron.
Yeah, he's staying alive. Can't say the same about Deft. But
That said, Valdez, they only have 55 seconds left on this Elder.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, they got to do something with it.
well, they
right?
have Baron, so they should be able to get at least top in here within that time. But I don't think it's done.
Yeah, I don't think they can end the game really on this. Let's see. I mean, this top inhibitor should definitely go down, right? Double buff. We get the cool colors going on. We got Exodia here, and T1 can't really fight this yet. The CP's going to come in as well, just 100%.
Oh, I'd love it. KT, just send it. Try to end it.
20
Look at
seconds.
the Hextech burn.
20 seconds. They got the burn. They got the Hextech. They're trying to go for these Nexus turrets, but the wave is cleared.
10 seconds.
Kind of. I mean, this Nexus turret is going to go down. And KT looking for the end. And 3 seconds to 1. No Elder buff left, but the damage is ticking. And down will go Zeus. Keria extremely low, and finally he did it impale. He impaled an enemy. He finally did it, and KT, they will finally get a big win here in the LCK as they take down T1 at their own T1 home ground and get the biggest upset I think we've had all season.
Oh, KT! What a team! What a victory! The Challenger team today, 1 loss into 2 wins. 0 predictions for these guys. Absolute shambles. They were struggling against Brian Valdez.
This week, earlier this week.
That's a couple of days ago.
Yeah, that happened 2 days ago. Oh my God. How did we manage this?
We should have known.
Yeah, I mean, there were some suspicions, right?
There was
on the analyst
something
desk,
in the air.
In the pre-show, you know, they were like, this is a bit weird. As they are crying,
Oh,
the KT group is, I mean, you know, there's always an away team at every homestand. And the small group of KT members, they were screaming their hearts out going into game 3, going into game 2.
Oh, perfect. Again, perfect. This is his first time playing on a stage this big, and he missed Almost all of his impales.
But he hit.
Got one in the end.
Hit one. That's all that he needed. And yeah, you see that not super happy on the side of T1. How can you be? This was not the game they expected to lose. I'll say that. Because so far, 4-1, they're going to be sitting at 4-2 now after this loss to KT. Their only other loss was against Gen G. Expected to be our second place team in the LCK by the end of it all, but not today.
I obviously had to vote Pioshik, right? Like he won the Elder Flip. He had an incredible game on Viego.
Yeah.
But Beryl, to me, man, this early game I think was run by him. His moves around the map, his level 1 confidence, the fact that he was able.
He hit this impale.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, forgot about that one.
So it's like what, 2 out of 5. And also, we made fun of Perfect because outside of that he was playing a really clean game, and I think he could still be happy with his performance in this series. But man, even now that the Nexus has fallen, I still can't quite believe it.
It's hard to grasp how this even happened. Like game 2, it was a bit of a draft gap. KT utilized it. We were like, oh, that's great.
Good for them.
They made it happen. This fight was a disaster for KT. They got Hextech Soul though, so I guess at the end of the day, it didn't matter. It made the game more interesting, made it closer. And then the Elder fight.
The moment that comes down, like you see Guma trying to do as much as he can, but the moment that Perfect shows up, he just has to leave or he will get blown up in seconds.
This is definitely a Pioshik POG, by the way.
Yeah,
like, even just watching these highlights,
oh, no,
it's like, this is insane. Yeah, I don't know. Like, you talked about inconsistency. Pioshik and Beryl, they were consistent to be good today. They're saying, don't get sucked in, watch the engage. They're the ones that have to engage. Our Elder ends in 5. Focus, Cassante. Take it slow, take it slow. Front line first. We won, we did it. I'm sorry.
I think Perfect there's like, oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
that's what he said, yeah.
Oh.
Didn't matter in the end.
Really shouldn't be.
Look at that gold graph.
That is, yep, that's a KT Roster gold graph, all right. What a telecom war, Velness.
We need to have this happen every time. That's a Saturday showdown. That is a telecom war. And it made it better because it was so unexpected. We came in today, we're like, oh, T1's going to roll them. Look how silly we look today. All of us. I mean, that was the expected result, but props to KT, they did it.
Never been more happy to look like a silly goose.
Absolutely. We're all just a bunch of silly goose up here, silly geese. We're done here for the cast for the first series. We do have a second one later. Make sure you're tuning into that as well. But for now, let's send it over to the space in a little bit. I think we're not ready quite yet. Oh, we are ready. Sorry. Yeah, we got the second series in 15 minutes, so that's what you guys need to know. But we're going to hand it over to the space now to break down that telecom war.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Jason for the POG interview translation. I'm here joined by the POGs on the side of KT Roster after their Saturday Showdown match up against T1 at T1's home ground event at 고양 선호 Arena. Congratulations on the win, guys. First up, Pioshik. So this is the first time that we ever done an out of the house event for the LCK regular season event. How was it? Yeah, true. As a professional player, I think even though this was not a Worlds match, but still all the fans came out in order to fill up the venue. It was amazing and it was a very special and new experience for me. What about you, Perfect? Yeah, this is my first time actually, performing at a venue big like this. So I thought I would be very nervous, but somehow, after listening to the national anthem and the cheers coming from the KT fans, I was so
네,
relaxed
좋습니다.
and I was not
표식 선수
feeling
오늘
any
톱에서
jitters
더비
and
각도
I was
굉장히
able to play up to
치열했고요.
my full
KT도
potential.
날선 경기력을 보여줬습니다. 1세트,
Exactly. I
1세트
think your
패배 이후에
performance
어떤
was
피드백을
very on
거쳤길래
point.
2세트 때 달라진 모습
After
보여줄 수
losing the
있었을까요?
first game, what kind of feedback
1세트
went
때
back and
저희가
forth?
오브젝트 타이밍에 판단을 살짝
I think,
실수해가지고 그쪽에서
we
게임이
made
많이
some
기울어졌다고
bad
생각을
decision around
하는데 피드백
objectives.
때는 그냥
So we kind of dropped the ball over there. So after that game, we were like, we have to clean that up, but we were able to focus up. And I told Deft, you know,
오히려 위기를
Deft,
기회로
you know,
만드셨던
we've
것
become
같습니다.
stronger after dropping
컵백
one
선수
game.
이
So we were just
세트는
joking
KT가
around
가져갈
and
수
we
있는
managed to
최고의
come
조합을
back for game
가져갔던 것
2.
같습니다. 요즘 메타에서 높은 티어로 평가받고
And
있는
perfect.
럼블을 필두로 바이와
Game
탈리아까지 가지고 가셨는데요.
Your Rumble,
뱀픽에
which is
대한
on top of
만족도
the
어느
tier
정도
list
되실까요?
right now, where it was able to pop off together with Talia and Vi. How was that draft? I believe Midis Talia and Pio6 Vi are the world's best, so I was able to play with so much confidence.
뒤집는 상황이 결국 나왔습니다. 어떤 부분에서 이런
Well,
뒤집는
early
경기
on
결과가
in the
가능했다고
game, you
보시나요?
were not able to have a priority, but you were able to turn the table around in the end. How was that possible? I don't think it was my, work. I think it was coming from the hard work from my teammates. They were carrying me, so I was not too nervous because I knew my hyungs are there to, carry for me, and I was just there to participate in the team fight for them. And Pio6 game 3 started off with a kill in favor of KT Roaster, coming from a very aggressive play from Burrow, utilizing the passive of Brown. We were actually planning for a early game cheese strategy in order to give a hard time for Zyra in the early game. And then Deft came up with an idea. He was like, how do you think? I was like, that's amazing. Like, how were you able to think of that? So we had a huge respect to his, technology for the early game, and we pulled it off and it worked. However, there was a team fight where T1 was able to actually win very big. How did KT players react to that play? Same Deft also arcane shifted forward, so we were like, oh wait, are we doomed? And then VDD was like, guys, it's okay, relax and it'll be alright. So we were able to pick ourselves up together and then, perform at our best level. Tell me about the Elder Still as well. How did you guys manage to close out the game? Exactly, the Elder Still was the nail in the coffin. And today, Deft had his 800th LCK game total. Any message over to him?
데프트 선수 800전 축하의 한 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
Anything you want to say over to Deft?
형이 되게 많이 뛴 줄 알았는데
I thought he played more.
생각보다 많이 안 뛴 것 같아. 일단
800? Well, still
일단
congratulations.
흑경 축하해.
Congratulations, Deft, on your 800th LCK game.
혁규 형이 800전을 했다고 하는데
Yeah, he just had his 800th LCK game.
1000전까지는
I
못하겠지만
don't think he can make it to 1,000 games because of, his military duty, but in a couple of years after his service, he might be able to hit 1,000.
이겨내고 승리를 성공시켰는데요. 많은 응원을 보내주신
Lastly,
팬분들께 한 말씀
KT
들어보겠습니다.
Roaster was able to pull off this win under so much pressure. Anything you want to say to the fans? We started off the season very rough, with a losing streak, but I hope with this momentum, we can start off a big win streak. Thank you so much for your support. And Pio6.
저희가 브리온전 이기고 팬미팅을 했는데
After
많은
the
분들이
fan
여기
meet,
와서 응원해
right after the
주신다고
Bro
하길래
series, I realized so many KT fans will actually come to the Goyang Arena to support us, but we were actually sitting on a 1-4 scoreline, so I was feeling so sorry for them. I was looking for a bounce back by taking down T1 today, and I think it's a miracle that we pulled it off, but I think it's all thanks to the support coming from the KT Roaster fans. Thank you so much. And this will be the end of the interview from Pio6 Perfect, and back to the space. Thank you.